You really hate Spider-Man?
We're not afraid of you.
No, but we're afraid of you.
I thought I was the only one. You're like me. I don't want to be.
I don't think you have a choice, kiddo.
Eisenstein defines the term plasmatic as animation's rejection of once and forever allotted form, freedom from ossification, the ability to dynamically assume any form, a being of definite form, not yet possessing a stable form but capable of assuming any form. This plasmaticness of animation is what allows it to go beyond the realms of our understanding of the real world. Characters are able to expand and transform into someone or something else that complexifies their physical as well as psychological beings. In this video essay, I will explore the ways in which the plasmatic can be applied to the Disney Pixar film Luca and Sony's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Let's begin. Disney Pixar's film Luca, directed by Enrico Casarosa in 2021, employs a usage of the plasmatic, a term coined by Sergei Eisenstein to describe animated objects' ability to fluidly transform between different forms. This expression of the plasmatic opens the opportunity for queerness to be strongly portrayed in this animated feature because of the characters' abilities to become other than their ordinary selves, which offers important representation of different identities within film as a medium. Later on, we'll go about comparing these concepts to Miles Morales and Into the Spider-Verse. The film Luca centers around the adventures of a sea monster, Luca himself, and his exploration of the human town of Porto Rosso on the Italian Riviera, with his newfound friend Alberto, also a sea monster. Their journey is spurred on by Luca's curiosity of the human world and his parents' disapproval of his actions going above the surface. Luca and Alberto befriend a human girl, Giulia, face bullies who intend to run them out of town for not being like the rest of them, and compete in a pasta-fueled triathlon to prove that the underdogs can win if they stick together. All the while, Luca and Alberto try their hardest to keep their sea monster identities a secret. They experience tensions, jealousy, fights, harmful revelation of identity, and the trio struggles to stay together. But by the end, the town celebrates the mixture of worlds and ensures the support of sea monsters and humans together. As sea monsters, Luca and Alberto are prime examples of the plasmatic within animation. Their existence fluctuates between human and something other, in this case, a sea creature. Let's look at one particular sequence. Luca and Alberto have decided to escape the confines of their ocean lives and journey to the human town. They leave the island, jumping off the cliffs and into the water below, turning from human to sea monster as soon as they hit the water. Alberto grabs Luca's hand to pull him into an arc above the water. The two boys launch themselves in and out, experiencing the joy that comes with the fluidity of their forms. Luca spirals in the air, watching the world turn upside down as his scales flip to skin. He lands on his feet, gliding on the surface of the water, his feet in fish form and the rest of him human. Luca flips himself back into the water, and he and Alberto continue their way to the shore. Luca and Alberto's forms remain fluid with the ability to switch between human and creature, albeit contingent on their contact with water. They can even be partially turned, creating a simultaneous existence as both human and sea monster, both forms always present within them. To quote Eisenstein, Luca's animation here is able to reach such absolute freedom from all categories, all conventions. The style of transformation allows for a departure from oneself, from once and forever prescribed norms of nomenclature, form, and behavior. While Eisenstein's writings were based on 2D cell animation, his plasmatic can still be applied to the 3D animation we are discussing here. The animation is closely associated more with reality because we experience life in 3D. Therefore, the ability of animation to take on a multitude of forms is felt even more strongly, and can be considered just as queer and plasmatic compared to the existing chaos of 2D cartoons. It is worth noting that Luca utilizes the title sea monster to describe the main characters. The literal monsterization of them in their identification ties to an essay on the monsterization of the queer body. We don't ask why queer desires and embodiments continue to be seen, read, and understood as monstrous. Rather, we reckon with monstrosity as a kind of creatively queer embodiment of gender, sexuality, and desire. Luca and Alberto's identification as monsters, something other, an identity that fluidly combines with their humanity, blurs the lines of their binary forms, and could be considered with the above quote as a queering of their existence. The plasmaticity of the film facilitates this concept of queer representation through the othering of Luca and Alberto's physical forms. It allows them to take on any kind of physicality, and this creates their existence as different from not only the humans, but from their origins as sea monsters as well. To quote the Jones and Harris essay again, Layered bodies, bodies of many surfaces, while of beauty and value to those who co-construct them intersubjectively, become for others a landscape of gendered and sexual fear, vilification, and violence. The plasmatic of Luca and Alberto as animated bodies creates in them a sense of layers, multiple facets of their physical form that contributes to their queering by the town, but subsequent celebration of their dual identities, their dual forms as human and sea monster. Luca has many different manners of portraying identities that function queerly in the world of the film. The bullies in the film call Luca and Alberto out-of-towners, make fun of what they wear, threaten them if they don't leave, and insist that the town is afraid and disgusted by them after they are revealed as sea monsters. The language of the film pointing out that the boys are inherently different than the other kids around them queers them without explicitly stating that either of them are queer in terms of attraction. Even though Alberto has some moments where he seems really jealous over Luca and Julia spending time together. I mean, look.
Hey, Luca, I've been looking everywhere for you.
Oh, sorry.
Either way, the manner in which Luca and Alberto function in Porto Rosso has queer subtext and can be compared to the queering of Miles Morales' character in the film Into the Spider-Verse. Important to note, for this film, we're referring to his queerness and worldly function, not necessarily in sexuality. While most are familiar with the origins of Spider-Man, Miles Morales works a little differently. He gets bit by a glitchy, radioactive spider and recognizes all his symptoms from the comic books that he's familiar with. He becomes the second Spider-Man to exist in his universe, and learns how to use his powers from a seasoned Spider-Man. Plus, he meets all kinds of different versions of Spider-People from different universes as they work together against the villains. Miles has difficulty keeping his identity a secret from his loved ones, but despite the losses and the struggles Miles faces with such sudden responsibility pushed onto him, he manages to save the day and find community with the people that understand his experience. It is notable, though, that the structure of Miles's development maps onto that of many queer people. The film's success suggests the key elements of his distinctly queer relationship to society, his ambivalence toward his nuclear family, his attachment to a tribe of secretive mutants. A quote by Andrew Kahn. This concept is present in a lot of different superhero narratives. Miles' transformation turns him into something that confuses him and sets him apart from the life he knew and how he was learning to exist in the world. His plasmaticity lies in his duality as both just Miles and as Spider-Man. His form changes between a normal teenage boy to a superhero, a mutant who is different from the others around him until he is able to find a group whose forms take on qualities similar to his, but unique to their own characters. The plasmatic of the multiverse in this film is also something that is representative of the many different physical manifestations of Spider-Man that exist, all the different forms that Spider-Man can take on. Miles specifically has to navigate an identity that he never expected to hold. He has difficulty discussing it with his family. He even ends up isolated by his own community until he can come into his own definition of what it means to be Spider-Man, of what it means to function in a world that makes it difficult to exist as an other, but ultimately the different forms that one can create for themselves in order to be authentic. The plasmaticity of Into the Spider-Verse's animation enables the queering of Spider-Man as a character, especially Miles, whose story takes on a lot of queer narratives. Both Luca and Spider-Man deal with themes of finding comfort in a found family, and most importantly to this video's argument, bodily transformations or even mutations that facilitate their othering and subsequent need and desire for community. Neither of these films deal with explicit queer concepts or dialogue that alludes to any type of sexual attraction of the characters. These are children and teenagers that we're talking about, but the themes and narrative tropes they utilize and acknowledge can allude to an othering or a queering of the characters that is facilitated through the dynamic and various physical forms and transformations that they all go through, aka the plasmatic within their animation. This means that audiences watching, especially young kids, can see themselves represented in these characters and know that they have a community out there that is ready to show them the ropes and support them through their journey into a queer identity. As Cody Mayer puts it, animation holds the potential to queer our reality. What better way to do that than with some fish boys and a Spider-Man?
No one to tell us what to do, just you and me out there. Free!
Anyone can wear the mask. You could wear the mask. If you didn't know that before, I hope you do now. 'Cause I'm Spider-Man, and I'm not the only one.
Some people, they'll never accept him. But some will. And he seems to know how to find the good ones.